Good Friday morning. Kate and Lori with you. And of course, we appreciate you kicking off the weekend with us. We've got a special guest in the studio with us this morning. Everybody welcome Ime. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad that you're here, Ime. Now, I want you to pronounce your last name for me.
Elugbe.
Okay. See, I would have really gotten that wrong. So I'm glad that you pronounced that for us. But we're excited to have you in here. Now, the way I've understood it, you have written a book. It has just been released.
Yes.
So tell us, first of all, what the book is and what it's about.
Okay. The title of the book is Forgiveness in the Church and in the American Society.
And that's a big word, forgiveness.
That is a big word, forgiveness, and it is a problem and a struggle in the church as well as outside the church. And so the Bible tells us that the church is the light of the world.
Right.
And so if the world is to learn about forgiveness, they're going to learn from the church, and we have to be that light. However, if we in the church are struggling with forgiveness as much as outside, then what is the hope for the world?
Right.
And so I felt it was important to talk about forgiveness in the church in the first part of the book. And then in the second part of the book is where I talk about the criminal justice system and its condemnation of ex-prisoners and felons in society. And here are some numbers to consider. 5% of the world's population is here in the United States. However, 25% of the world's prison population is here in the United States.
Wow.
So a quarter of the world's prison population resides here in the United States. 47.5% of the prison population is African American. But African Americans only constitute about 13% of the population in general. So there's a higher percentage of African Americans in prison than in society in general. 5 out of 10 African Americans in their first year of release from prison will return. Okay, it's called the recidivism rate. Okay, that for the Hispanic, that's also 5 out of 10, and for whites, that's 4 out of 10. By the 5th year, 8 out of 10 African Americans will return to prison. For the Hispanics, it's 7, and for whites, it is 6. And so I called that like a modern day slavery, because you see that the blacks are the most affected by this. And what's happening is there are two worlds in the that operate on different systems in the American society. You have the inside world and you have the outside world. The inside world is prison, and the outside world is free society. The inside world, you don't need your rights to be successful there. In the outside world, you need rights. You do need rights to be successful. In the inside world, you don't need opportunities and responsibilities. Somebody's telling you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, where to do it. Just do what you're told and you'll be successful. In the outside world, you need these opportunities and these responsibilities. And so the problem is when you take somebody from this world, this system, and you bring them out into the free society system, but you still expect them to function like they're in the inside world. That's a problem, and it is tied to the crime rates, and it is an injustice on the part of the criminal justice system, because they are ultimately responsible for the felons. They when the felons were in prison, they were taking care of them. When you bring them out to society, you are still responsible for them as long as you label them felons, because to be labeled a felon is a mark of infamy. It's a stigma. And so if their rights are not protected, then the rest of society is going to discriminate against them, and that's what's happening. They tell them, you can't get a job because of your criminal past. You can't get a place to stay because of this, And so they almost feel comfortable and better in prison than out here.
Right.
And ultimately, they will commit a crime against the innocent. So I say, if you don't protect the rights of the guilty, you will endanger the rights of the innocent.
So how do we change that?
Well, we have to get involved. First of all, the responsibility, the criminal justice system has to protect the rights of the guilty. You can't have them in society and tell them they don't have rights. They do have rights. Thomas Jefferson called it inalienable rights. So you cannot take this from them. They have rights. And so for the criminal justice system not to protect those rights, that is an injustice. Now, there are those who say, oh, because of what they did, they don't deserve rights. And my question to those people would be, do you deserve rights? Do you deserve the grace and mercy that you receive on a daily basis from God? Just because you didn't get caught when you broke the law does not give you permission to be self-righteous towards somebody else. They remind me of the Pharisees who brought the woman who was caught in adultery to Jesus. And they said, oh, this woman was caught in the very act of adultery. Moses' law required us to stone her. What say you? And what did Jesus tell them? He that is without sin cast the first stone. And none of them could cast the first stone because they all had something. Probably some of them actually have slept with a lady, and they're over there casting stones at her. And so for people to say they don't deserve rights, well, do you deserve rights? And when you say that, let me show you a quote from my book that really summarizes what I'm saying. This is from a 2008 article, The Limits of Citizenship, the Rights of Prisoners and Ex-Prisoners in the United States. Okay, it says the rights of prisoners and ex-prisoners are an excellent measure and estimate for the strength of human rights in a given society. The more punitive and exclusionary the policies towards prisoners and ex-prisoners are, the less protected are the rights of citizens in general.
So I guess my big question for you is, what exactly do you want people to know when you're saying that prisoners deserve rights? Because I do agree, however, there's a problem because there's always that fine line. You know what I mean? What do we do with someone who may be dangerous to society, but they're still human and they still deserve rights?
Right.
How does that work for us?
Right. So I say if they are quote unquote, if you deem them dangerous to society, leave them in that system. But you cannot bring them out to okay, if they're that dangerous, then leave them there. Leave them. But once you bring them out here, you have to give them rights. Otherwise, that's an injustice.
You have to forgive.
You have
no
to
matter
forgive.
how hard it is.
Yes.
Isn't that? Do you think one of the most difficult things to do as a human?
Yes, absolutely.
Is to forgive.
Absolutely.
When we want it so badly.
Yes.
We want it so badly from other people.
Right.
But it's so difficult for us to get.
Right.
Why is that?
The first reason is pride. It's connected to pride.
Okay. Yeah.
It's connected to pride because we fail to connect. And what I said in one of my last interviews is, no matter what these people have done to us, done to society, it pales in comparison to what we have done to the Lord. And so, if the Lord was to hold our past against us the same way we hold the felon's past against him,
we'd all be in trouble.
We're all spiritual felons. We're all spiritual felons. And if the Lord was to hold our past against us the same way we hold their past against them, we all have a spiritual criminal record.
Right.
We all will fail a spiritual background check.
Right.
There's no hope for any of us. Okay, so the Lord is looking and saying, wow, I forgave you this big debt. But you can't forgive this person this little debt, and you hold it against him, and you keep him from ever having a legitimate opportunity in society. That's an injustice.
Absolutely.
I understand what you're saying about the spiritual and all of that. Let me ask you, too, because it's really big in the news right now in Arkansas. What are your thoughts with all of everything going on with our death row system and everything trying to be done by Sunday? My thoughts are this could have been avoided.
And because probably the people that are being executed, they're not first-time offenders. They are repeat offenders.
Exactly.
And so the reason why is tied to this. You brought them out into society. You told them because of their past, because of what they've done, they had no rights. They can't get a job. They can't get a place to stay. They can't vote. They can't do nothing. And so, but you expect them to function. And so they feel more comfortable back in jail. And so they commit a crime to get back in jail. And so that's why I say when you don't protect the rights of the guilty, you will endanger the rights of the innocent. So it shouldn't have to get to this.
I've heard that so many times that people commit another crime to get back into jail so that they have the routine, they have everything that they've had in the past.
Yes, and it's in Exodus 16, the Hebrews they were enslaved to Egypt for over 400 years, and then finally the Lord used Moses to deliver them. Well, when they were brought out of Egypt, they were in the wilderness and they began to be hungry. There was no food and there was no water. And they said to Moses, "Why did you bring us out here to die? You should have left us back in bondage, in slavery, in Egypt. At least there we had all our needs met." And so the thing is that freedom requires more responsibility than slavery. Okay, there is more of a burden on freedom than slavery. And so these people are coming out into society not having what they need to succeed, and it's just they are doomed to fail on arrival. They are doomed to fail, destined to fail, because they don't have what they need. I was giving an analogy on KASU. I said it's like ASU going to play a football game against another college. And the college shows up on the field. They have their helmets, they have their pads, they have their mouth guards, their cleats, everything they need to play football. But then ASU send their own players out on the field just like this, like how we're dressed. That's not fair, because you're not putting them in the best position to succeed. And so probably most of the players on the very next down, they'll want to go back outside, because they're not ready.
Right.
So what do we do?
Well, I mean, again, like I said, the criminal justice system, they can't have these people out here and tell them they don't have rights. So the responsibility ultimately falls on them. Now, as a community, I talk about, 3 relationships. Our inaction as a community supports the action of the criminal justice system. We live in a society where the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Yes. So if we don't talk about it, if we don't galvanize together and bring it up, then this is going to continue. So the role of the community is to talk about it and care enough to do something about it, and people just don't care. Even I was talking to my wife, and one of her friends who actually has a child in prison and has stakes in this, we told her, listen, there is, because I did asked the city for a permit to conduct a human rights march here in Jonesboro on May 20. And so we were asking her to come and be a part of this march. She said, "Oh, yeah, that's good, I should, but," and then she gave another excuse. And I'm like, you have a child vested in this, and this is your level of, interest in this, and and so how much more someone who is not directly connected to this. Now, here's the thing. It only takes a second for a person who is not directly connected to this problem to be connected, because you don't know. You might be the next victim of a convicted felon. You might be the very next victim, or a family member might be the very next victim. So it's akin to, let's say we're in a community, and there are certain members of the community who are infected with some kind of contagious disease. And then you say, well, I'm not affected. I don't care. Well, sooner or later, you're going to be infected, because they are amongst you. They are amongst you. Right. So you have to care enough.
We need to quit sweeping it under the rug, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Quit sweeping under the rug.
Yes. And you have to do something.
Yes.
And they all, what is the quote? Is the only thing for, or something for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing.
Right. Evil prevails when good men do nothing.
Right. So you're right. We do have to kind of step up and say, now listen, we've all made mistakes.
Yes.
Just like the parables.
Yes.
We've all made mistakes.
Yes.
None of us are without sin, and some people may have broken the law, and that's why they're in prison.
Right.
We've made mistakes, not just. We may not have broken the law, but we're forgiven, right? So you've got someone who's, been in prison for a couple of years, and they're like, how are we to judge them when they may have completely changed their life?
Actually, we've broken the law. We just didn't get caught.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so that's what happened. The woman was caught in adultery. But these people who are accusing her,
Right.
they're probably one of the people who are sleeping with her. They over there casting stones.
Right.
So it's not that we just because we didn't get you didn't get caught when you broke the law. That's no permission to be self-righteous.
Right.
No, that is not permission to be
So
self-righteous.
in your book, because I do want to make sure that people know that it's out so they
Yes.
can purchase it.
Yes.
You're not just talking about forgiveness within ourselves and our friends and
Right.
folks like that, but really what we can do to help the justice system as
Yes.
well, right?
Yes.
So tell us the name of the book, Ime, so we know what we're looking for.
Okay, it's Forgiveness in the Church and in the American Society.
Okay, and we can find that where? Everywhere?
Barnes & Noble, anywhere they're selling books. Barnes & Noble locally here, online on Barnes & Noble's, Amazon, Books A Million, Ingram Catalog. Or you can join me at Christ Ambassadors Ministries International. I usually have some copies on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's on Nettleton. Give them the address.
That is 5114 East Nettleton Avenue.
Okay, and then, sorry.
You said you were doing a book signing.
Yes, I am doing a book signing. That is coming up July the 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. at Barnes & Noble's.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
is there any, I hate to let you go, but is there anything else that you want to say real quick before we go?
No, just thank you for having me, and just keep. This is something to think about, and
Work on ourselves.
work on ourselves, yes.
learning to forgive.
Yes,
It's so
yes,
hard.
yes, and anything. If you can join at the march on May 20th, please come out and support the march. It concerns everybody.
Okay. Well,
Ultimately.
Ime, it was so great to meet you.
Thank you.
Loved hearing your thoughts,
Yes.
and we're excited to check your book out too. So,
Okay, thank you.
thanks
Thank you
for
having me.
coming in. We appreciate you.
Yes.